Hello and welcome back to another edition of Talking Quack and Smack with TC Duck Club. I'm Skylar Ray.
I'm Brad Arrington.
I'm Swain Morris.
I'm Jack Peavy.
We're here at Mossy Pond Retrievers in Patterson, Georgia, and man, I can't tell you enough how awesome this place is. And I guess without further ado, you can go ahead and I guess make yourself comfortable at your own place, because I've got a ton of questions about this place. And I don't think, no matter how many questions we ask, this place is just not one of those places that you can describe to somebody. This is like the Holy Grail, the Disneyland, the Sistine Chapel, if you will. Like you just can't put this place into words, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate you letting us come down here.
No, thank y'all for being here. This is a huge opportunity for us to kind of get our brand out there, and with the platform that y'all provide for us. So thank you so much. We enjoy it. We put blood, sweat, and tears into it every day, and it tickles us, and it's a blessing for us to be able to make people smile in the outdoors, whether it's with our dog operation, training operation, hospitality in and out of the lodges, or with our hunting that we do, of course. But thank you.
And the one thing that kind of jumped out at me, when you pull in, you come in and it's just old country dirt road, just like we've got in Northeast Alabama, and then it just opens up into just this oasis of like awesomeness. And I can't tell you how many times I've called this guy, and Swain and I have been buddies, and we're in the same hunting club. And anyway, everybody's got a buddy that's in the dog training world or in the hunting world, and he was like, man, I need to get you down here and talk to one of my buddies. And I was like, all right, man, yeah, sure. I mean, we're on spring break the last of the month, and I'd love to come down and see you, man. I hadn't seen you in forever. And he said, you didn't even ask who my buddy is.
Yeah.
I said, well, Swain, if he's your buddy, he's my buddy. He's like, my buddy is Brad Arrington with Mossy Pond. I said, I'll be there whatever day. I mean, I happen to have a couple personal days that I can take. So anyway, like, it's been like Christmas, for a little kid. I'd be sitting over there at night Googling Mossy Pond and watching videos on YouTube and whatnot, and still I was just as unprepared as anybody could ever be about this place. I mean, it's just like, you can't prepare yourself for what you're fixing to see here, or how nice the people are, or how awesome the amenities are. And it's not just it's not just a place for a dad, or a dad and a kid, or a corporate event. My whole family's with us right now, and I'm not real sure, but I'm pretty sure my wife's had as good a time as I've had. And with the spa and the food and the views and everything there is to do, I mean, it's awesome.
Well, thank you. That's what we're trying to provide, because in the beginning and the story, how all this evolved was trying to make a place where people would come. I did the follow-up phone call on the dogs that I was training. Hey, how's your dog doing? Well, Brad, when you worked him right there at the kennel, he did amazing. But now when we got home, it was a little off. And so I said, I'll tell you what, you need to come down here and stay. We'll put you at the motel or whatever we need to do. You got to spend 3 days with me. And we started doing that, and then some years rocked on, and probably a couple of years, and then I would call them. They said, Brad, the dog does amazing at the house, and the little parlor tricks that I do, I mean, it's amazing. So what you're doing is working by making them, I put it in the contract. At the end of training your dog, you have to come spend 3 days with them. Well, it rocked on. Well, all right, we got a duck lease in Arkansas, and we got out there, and 10 of our buddies jumped up, and all of us shot. And he was a little overwhelmed, and then, the dog swimming back through the decoys, and my buddy shot another duck, and it went out there, and he dropped this one, went over there. He's got the dead bird coming home, and then there's a cripple swimming off, and I said, all right. So I implemented that they had to spend 3 days with me. Now I got to take these guys hunting. I said, you got to go hunt with me, and I'll show you how to operate the dog. And then if he makes mistakes, I'll step you through it. how not to, where you can bend him
Yeah.
into listening, but don't break him.
Right.
And no different than, you know, coaching. You want to bend those players and bend them into what you want out of them, but you don't want to break them. You cut their legs out from under them, you have no product. So I told these guys, I said, come hunt with me. So it just started off with guys like Coach, so my buddies, somebody I knew, and I'd take them hunting. We'd hunt for a couple of days and show them the do's and don'ts. You know, you throwing decoys out, they break, jump out there, and we did all that with them here at Mossy Pond, but the owner hadn't. So after I did that a little bit, and then I started getting some flighted mallards and stuff like that to really replicate it here. They'd bring their buddies. So Coach Morse brought you two guys here, you know, and then all of a sudden Jack calls me next week and says, hey Brad, Coach gave me your contact information. He said, I'd like to come hunt. Well, Jack, we don't offer hunting. We're not a hunting operation. When you get your dog trained, I want to make sure and reassure my product going out is the best it could be. So that's how all this came about. And then I noticed if I would hunt with those guys and their dogs, that dog and that owner, they became a team. And then they were clickety clack. And then our business went from here on the training side of it, went from here to more of an elite standard that I always dreamed of. Yeah. But if I wouldn't implemented the cabin and the lodge for them to stay on the property, and then I wouldn't implemented a every hunting scenario that we do now, of course, I'm sure you'll explain this in a minute, we're in the hunting business now, 3 lodges, but everything to do with our hunting scenarios was based on and built around a dog. Even our hog dogs that we train, our quail hunts, our pheasant hunts, our duck hunts, everything that we do, our hog hunts, everything was based around how to teach you how to handle your dog out there. And then we understood, just like you said about the spa and stuff, well, I can get the guys down here, but I can't get their family. I can't get their kids that's taking the dog out to air or use the bathroom. He can't get the dog back inside, so that makes me look bad. The women, the ladies, the wives, they tried to walk with, Sally wants to take Blue on a jog in our neighborhood and he keeps running off. I got to train her too. So that's when we implemented the nice hospitality on our lodges where the whole family would stay. And it's a sporting place for kids. We give shooting lessons. I mean, everything that I wanted to create where that family would be happy and content. The food's really good, and that's what we strive to do every day in and day out. If that family's comfortable here and wants to be here to learn how to operate that dog, then I can really teach, and I can teach every person that's going to be hands-on with that dog how to handle the dog. And then, of course, fast forward, then we have everybody calling us wanting to come back to hunt that has heard about it, and we really haven't marketed this thing. It's just like what a lot of people say, well, we really hadn't heard about you but the last 2 years we've started pushing it. But anyways, this was built around how to teach the owner how to work his dog, and of course we're still in the dog business. Puppies, started dogs, finished dogs, all the way.
And growing up where we are, a lot of the people around our place are coon hunters or squirrel hunters or deer hunters or turkey hunters. I mean, I know Swain likes to turkey hunt, and me and Jack and Swain and so many of my other buddies, I'd soon go hunting without my gun than without my dog. Sure. You know what I mean? And other than not just getting to watch the dog work, that dog is kind of like one of your kids, and it becomes so close to you because you have such a bond with it by spending so much time with it and everything, and you're teaching an animal that doesn't speak the same language as you to understand really what you're thinking. And when you stick your hand in front of that dog, I mean, she's ready to go. And I just think it's a huge accomplishment, just like no different than working a group of mallards, or teaching a kid to fill B gap, or read guards, or fight off a reach block, or take a 3-step drop and throw a slant on time, or whatever. But me and Swain were sitting out on the back deck last night, and we were sitting out there by the fire, and all three of us coach football, and I told them, I said, this is like, you start out at training camp, and then you go to like 2-a-days, and then you end up at the Pro Bowl, which is where what I would call the the quail hunting or the duck hunting this morning. But it's just unbelievable to watch everything, and everything here is just so well oiled. Like it's just never a hiccup.
It's unbelievable.
I need him to start running our practice schedules. And do this at like 3:02.
I had him in the booth with me.
so that
he could keep it straight.
That's where the state championship ring comes from.
I was taking notes. That's my fun, getting out there with kids and youth. But Coach Morris with those high school boys, it's pretty amazing. Just like y'all are talking about the dogs working that. I envy and I'm jealous. I'd love to be a football coach. I try with the little guys, but it's fun.
Coach was walking around, and I figured by now he'd have to have shoulder reconstruction or a sling or something, because he's got that big state championship ring on. And he was showing me his ring, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger every year. And of course, if I win another one, I want it to be the size of a stop sign. But I tell all of our kids that we're coaching, their state championship rings, they go with every outfit, from a bathing suit to a tuxedo and anything in between. They match everything, and it's such a great accomplishment. But this is like the Mecca, the Super Bowl, or the World Series, the Masters, whatever. I mean, this is just
you described it best. It truly is Disneyland for duck hunters. But the thing is, everything is top notch here. The hospitality, the way people treat you. Brad gives back to the community. I mean, everything is top of the line. It's sort of like, when you said pull down the road and you see everything, you're just like, wow, it's sort of like Valhalla for hunters, because you've got, quail hunting today, come on now.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Saw more quail in the first hour than I have my whole life.
Yeah,
of course, we don't have a lot of birds in northeast Alabama, but again, Jack had been here with y'all and had seen the place before, and he's, one of
it wasn't them that had been shook up in a bag.
No, like these
It was quail.
I didn't see a leash on any of them. They were getting some yonder, because I missed several of them. Yeah. But anyway, here's what I think.
They put pressure on us. So we got down to the last few shells when you had to come back and set this up, and they said, whoever misses has to give the rest of your shells to the other guy. We hit everything.
Yeah. Nobody's wanting to give their buddy the last shell. But me and Jack kind of met through the dog training world and the football world, and I tell everybody, coaches and duck hunters are like middle school girls. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody's going to talk and gossip. And it really is, and it's the same brand of people, I guess you'd say. East Coast, West Coast, Great Lakes, Everglades, wherever, even in Africa. We took a trip through Ducks Unlimited and went to Africa. Hunters are just the same, cut from the same cloth, no matter where. Most people are just genuinely good people.
Good people, yeah. Especially our dog people. Our dog people. Now, like you said, their dogs are their kids. So, but yes, all our dog people, and that's how our clientele. I mentioned earlier that we hadn't marketed hard. Our clientele that feeds all three lodges, and then we're starting another one in Kentucky now as well. All of the places that were sent, it was built on clientele from our dog training, and we built those relationships. And remember, I made them stay here.
Yeah.
So I had dinner with them 3 nights. I talked to them. Then I took them hunting. So I think we got right at 22,000 real emails of people that had dogs trained before we started this hunting entertainment business about 2 years ago. And everybody said, Brad, these things are so hard to get kicked off. How are you going to do it? I said, we already got the people. And it's not like it's fake people or people that I got to grab. It's people that I know. I mean, we're buddies. A lot of them, we go to vacation together. I mean, we've done a lot together, and I know who they are, what they're about, what their family does, what their kids' names are. And I said, all right, let's do it. And we started, and it's just a pyramid scheme, you know. I mean, that buddy tells his buddy, then his buddy, but all of the original customers, they were dog guys that we had trained their dogs. So.
And you know, you talk about knowing everybody else's kid. We got introduced to your kid yesterday, and you know, when we pull up, we're going from the lodge to the doghouse, as you call it, which the doghouse, by the way, is not what you're thinking. It's like the most unbelievable gathering place with fire pits, and it's 5-star all the way. But anyway, we're driving over, and your son is driving the truck behind us, and the only thing you can see was his eyeballs because he's looking through the hole of the steering wheel. And he pulls up, and he just comes up to my wife, and he's like, "Ma'am, can I help you with anything?" And I'm like, they train everybody around here. I'm like, my wife's going to be trying to get me signed up to stay in one of these kennels. But, you know, again, you've done a great job with this place, but, you know, you also obviously incorporate your family in this too. And I'm sure your wife has a big hand in some of the decor. And
she's been amazing. She's, you know, I was a diesel mechanic at the railroad, and did that at night, and I was helping her dad, my father-in-law, farm a little. And you know, when I went home and told everybody that I wanted to leave the railroad, and of course I was training dogs during the day, but I said I want to leave the railroad and be a dog trainer. Well, all of my family, if you live around Waycross, Georgia, and you work at the railroad, that's the biggest, best job you can do. So much security. My granddaddy, he retired from the railroad as an electrician, and I told him that. Well, my mama, she didn't even talk to me. She said, "What in the world are you doing? You gonna pet dogs for a living? This isn't gonna work. This is crazy." But getting back to Miss Ellen, my wife, she was my biggest supporter, my biggest fan. She said, "You can do it." She said, "I stick behind you. I don't need to know the details. Get with it." And she said, "You know, when Brad puts his mind on something, he's gonna do it." And she stuck behind me. And going back, it's just crazy. It was definitely heaven sent, God sent. He knew what, but there were so many things along the way that we just failed. And I said, "Well, that's it. Well, we're in a mess." You know, I mean, up to, you know, even 6, 7, 8 years ago, there were times that we didn't know what we were going to do. I mean, peanut butter and jelly and hamburger helper. Let's get with it. But, you know, but she always stuck behind me, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But at the same time, you know, and this is no disrespect to the railroad. There were so many great men that I met out there, but I never look at a clock now. Back then, all night I was looking at the clock. When can I get off? But me and Miss Ellen, we never look at a clock. She was a nurse. She left there for the business, and every morning, if I get up at 4:30 every morning, I'm excited about getting out there. I'm excited about everything from the dogs to the shooting to the hunting, every piece of it, the hospitality. I love it, and that's what I tell we got 94 employees across everything, and I tell every one of them, I said, "I'll find you an exit route, and I'll find you a place to go and work, and I'll help you with our resources, find you a place. But if you're not passionate about this and you've lost that passion, we don't want you here." And I think that's that coaching that I'm coaching day in and day out, and my managers are coaching. That's how we have that elite standard, is to keep everybody passionate about it. I mean, dog training, it's a grind. You know, you're out here before daylight, you're airing them, then you got to feed them, then you got to put them on the rig, then you go out and you do 3 or 4 setups a day, move them to various locations, or if you don't, they're not going to be good. Then you're pulling in at dark, then you got to feed them, then you got to wait a little while, then you got to air them. I mean, it's a grind, but so it's easy to get complacent, it's easy to get burnt out. But and even my dog trainers say, "Hey, if you're getting complacent, I'll find you another job. These guys we train for, most of them are very successful people. We'll find you a job. But if you're not passionate about it, Mossy Pond isn't the place for you. And down to our cooks, our masseuse, cleaning ladies, they want to put the mint and the chocolate on your bed and turn your bed down. They want it. They like to see that smile when you come out and you see your bed turned down, or you go to your locker and you already have a rental gun and your waiters and everything, you pair of gloves because it's cold in the morning. Everybody here, what we coach and what we strive to do, be passionate. We want the people and the customers to wear a smile. Our dog trainers, be passionate. If you're not, just sit in the place. Y'all gonna love this. Georgia Bulldog through and through right here now. Georgia Bulldog.
Well, everybody can't be one of the good guys. I mean, we're Auburn fans, but you know,
We're not all of them.
No, we're not.
well, you should be.
Just where we're clear, that elite standard, I watch Nick Saban on my phone about every single day. And that guy right there, maybe everybody might not agree with him, but his elite standard on everything that he does with that football program, what he did do with that football program, I mean, it's elite.
Well, Kirby Smart does the same thing at Georgia.
That's right.
I mean, it's just, there is a certain way to do things.
It's got to be elite, or you will fail. And everybody says, well, how do they do it? Well, when you're elite, the other guys aren't going to. And, of course, the work ethic has to be there. Right. You got to grind. Yeah. But doing it the right way, that's what we try to do here.
And as coaches, that's what, we preach every day. And I know you're an athlete, and, seeing or just listening to you right there talk, like, that's what we preach to athletes. And, some people are worried about putting their kids in sports and, all that. Like, I just feel like there's so much good out of it. And you just learn that work ethic. You learn how to get up early. You learn how to stay late. You learn how to do extra work. You learn so many positives. It's not, sometimes there's a bad rep on it, but
Adversity,
all that. When you were going through it.
So many things that, this is done.
It's not this every day.
We're done, Ellen. What are we gonna do? And I've always told her, I love landscaping, and I said we won't ever go broke because I'll start mowing yards, and I love keeping a good yard. So I said I'll jump out there, and I think this newer generation are lazy. Point blank. Yeah. So I said I'll mow yards. I said we won't ever. But going back to what you said about the kids, I catch myself sometimes when I'm coaching and when I'm talking to the dog owners, I got to be careful because I say dog training is exactly like coaching.
100%.
It's no different in how you build that truck. So we're competitive in field trials, hunt tests, super retriever series and stuff, a bunch of competitions. So each trainer has between 12 and 20 dogs. Well, to build that team, let's call it a team, you have to learn how to weed them out. The ones that aren't, the ones that are on the bench, and then the ones that are starters. So it's a lot of like and how and maybe I'll disagree, every single dog, every single player is totally different.
100%. 100%.
A lot of these trainers and coaches I see it's cookie cutter to them. Okay, this is how you do it right here. Well, that's not right, because if you teach and coach and train dogs all the same, you will be mediocre at best, right, in my opinion. But with these the dogs and the players, every person's different, every kid's different. Some you need to get on his butt before you even start practice.
Yeah,
just to get his head right. And then some, you pat him on the butt the whole practice. It's just the exact same with these dogs. I've won with those that I'm having a constant, good boy, good job. Here he is. Where's your bird? Way out, good, way out. Shooter. And then the next one, I'm sitting there with an handle. Man, come on, dude. Get it together, just like on the football field. Hey, dude, you got to stay focused. You're killing us out there. Let's go. Constantly riding them. And but anyways,
that's how I fell in love. With getting a dog. Is my playing college football. My career was coming to an end, and my buddy calls me up and is like, hey man, I got a black lab. And I was like, look, I'll take it. I'm all about it. And he tells me his bloodline, and I'm fired up about it. And you're talking about the competitive side of it, man. There's no difference than an athlete and that dog, and you training that dog, and when you step to the line in a started HRC test, when I took that dog, I was as nervous as any snap I've ever played in my life. I was just like, I don't want to look like an idiot, and then I fell in love with it. A guy in our town that played for my dad, and his name's Cody Alford. He runs Coosa Bend Kennels, and he got me hooked, and I just kind of ran with it from there. But nothing to the level that you're at. But we've ran the HRC stuff and got them both finished. And man, I try to tell people, like, if you're looking to compete and you're looking to get nervous again, you're looking to get those butterflies, you pick you up a dog and you figure it out. And
the same way,
awesome.
When we used to do the UKC coon hunts.
Oh yeah.
There were guys that we would run their dogs for them because he said, I just get too nervous.
Yeah.
And so we'd go do it, and I always loved doing that. That gave you that same game night excitement.
No doubt.
This past season was probably the first time I had actually went deer hunting. In probably 3 or 4 years. We were building a house, coaching football, duck hunting, and the time that we normally, bow season starts in Alabama, we're playing football. And if you're coaching and playing well enough to keep the paychecks coming to the mailbox, then you're playing up until Thanksgiving. Right. Well, duck season comes in Thanksgiving. I mean, I'm not going to leave that lab that I've worked with all year in the pen to go sit in a shooting house. And, be honest, I just sit over there and play on my phone if I'm in a shooting house. I mean, that's boring. I can't talk to my buddy. And, we all just sit out and conversate when we duck hunt. And, now we've gotten spoiled and we're sitting in that pit. So we walk in, flip a light switch on, light the heater, start pouring the coffee out of the cup and eating biscuits. And, we've definitely kind of, I guess, learn from the school of hard knocks and gain some of that tuition from the college of knowledge and figured out real quick, you don't really want to be pushing a flat bottom boat and a trolling motor or a canoe across the mud flat when you're 35, 40 years old. And, we've changed up the way we do things, and it's just, it's so much fun because you kind of get that group that you hunt with that you can count on, that want to do things right and do things the way you do it. And then you get a dog, and then my dog's better than your dog. No, it's not. My dog's better than yours, and it just becomes like football practice or a hangout. And that to me is what it is. And I had a great time with my buddies, and I've been really blessed to see some of the places we've been and take my family with us. But my little boy and your son, who is not a little boy. I mean, he's the biggest guy at the place. And but the thing about it is, like, watching your kid do it, and it just gives you another avenue. And both of my kids have been hunting with me, and it just gives you another avenue of a way to kind of get out of the house.
That was a cool thing about it, like this morning, watching Dixon, not only when he would shoot ducks, but when he would watch the dog. Yeah. He got more tickled with that, just watching him, how the dog might do something, or, and he was always smiling at the dog and everything, so, that's good.
Well, I mean, there's people brought up different ways, and there's different beliefs, and this is 2025, and I try not to be closed-minded or condemn anybody, but I personally just don't see how you can go and watch a lab dog or a retriever or a working dog do exactly what that owner or that trainer tells them to do, and you can just, if you have any common sense or any kind of open mind, you just see how that dog reacts to what that owner or trainer handler, if you will, is doing, and how much that animal wants to please every member of the family. Every member of the family. Now, they don't come that way. They're trained that, they're trained that way, and it's just a relationship you form. And I don't think anybody has ever just despised an animal worse than my wife did my duck dog now, like when she was a puppy, because I seriously thought about 10 or 15 times about loading her up and taking her down to the vet and having her tested for rabies, because you flip that latch and she just attacks your blue jeans. And I mean, all of my blue jeans are muddy and ripped, and my wife got to where she wouldn't even, go out and have anything to do with her. And now, like, she's out there every morning, and she's like, "Hey, don't worry about going down there. I've already got Ella fed." And I'm like, "It's 5:30 in the morning."
Yeah.
I mean, she was asleep. That was like me. Let us sleep in the off season. But anyway, my wife's always shaking the rooster cages. But I just can't get over this place. I mean, we walk into the gift shop
it's unbelievable.
and check in, and everything here is just awesome. I mean, how many times I said that on the podcast?
Yeah. And when he talked about, I was fortunate enough for you to show me around this place a couple years ago with Coach Herring, and when this came up, Skylar was like talking about it, and I was like, look, I don't know how to explain it other than the Yellowstone show, but it's for dogs. Like, it's it. Like, it is top notch, and it's unbelievable, and just
that would make me Jimmy and you Kevin Costner.
Just every way, you do things, and from everything, I mean, from top to bottom, it's unbelievable.
Thank you for the kind words.
That'd make Dixon rip, by the way.
I hear you.
He's a muscle.
Take that.
No.
Take him to the train station. He could definitely do it.
But there's so much to offer here for every member of the family. And, we took a boat ride in, but we were asking the guys, I said, because I've got some family members that are, can't get around, and he said, we can accommodate just about everybody, and we try to make it as family friendly as possible. And he was telling us about the upland hunting and the 5-stage shooting, or high house, low house, and the hog, thermal hog hunting and everything, which Ryan got to experience last night. And it's just awesome. I mean, I could come and move my wife down here. I don't know how she would feel about South Georgia.
What about the food? I mean, you're not going to eat any better in a five-star restaurant.
It was a 5-star meal, and the thing about it is, I mean, I was starting to think, well, anybody can cook a meal good one time. And then we got up this morning, and it was just everything that you can imagine for breakfast is right there on your plate, and they're bringing you a cup of coffee and everything, and we're sitting there by this big, beautiful fireplace. It's the biggest fireplace I've ever seen.
Yeah, the Cracker Barrel's not
the thing. I even mentioned this to Swain when I walked in yesterday. I said, "That's a real wood fireplace," and Swain was like, "Yeah." I was like, "There's no ashes in it." And he was like, "No, they clean them out every day." And I'm like, I've just never seen it. But if you walk into like a Cracker Barrel or your grandmother's house or wherever, you can always smell that wood. And I love the smell of it while you're sitting beside of it. But if you get back in your car, I'm a big smell person.
Yeah.
And I don't like the smell of cigarette smoke or campfire smoke. You just get tired of it.
Yeah.
You walk into that lodge,
you have no idea.
You can't smell. That's why I got to looking. I was like, "Is that real wood?" And everything here is just perfect.
I about messed up on that deal. What is masonry? I'm definitely not a bricklayer. Well, I built that lodge, and my cousin helped build it, but I designed it. I told him where I wanted everything or whatever, and we were building that, and I said, I want a big fireplace, like Cracker Barrel, where they can sit there, if we're come in after the hunt or whatever. And I didn't know that there was a certain type of roll that you had to do where it would draw and this and that. And I told him, I said, no, I don't like it like that. I want it like this. Well, the Cracker Barrels were that wide, I wouldn't measure them. But they're
Told you, Cracker Barrel.
But they're not that tall. The mouth aren't that tall. But I told him, I said, I don't want to do it like that. I want mine to be bigger where you can see the flame. And well, I said, okay, but if that's what you want. Well, when they were doing it, it wasn't drawing. And they said, we told you, there's a certain type of roll on the back you're supposed to do and everything. I about burned the place down, and that's a lot of bricks in that thing.
No.
But anyways, they showed me later. Because I'm the same way. I don't like it to smell smoky in there. I want to see it. If I get close to it, I can smell it, feel it, but I don't want my rooms in there. You go to your room and you got it on you and you're in the sheets, and the next morning it's in your nose and everything else.
Yeah.
But I got a professional on something that I was trying to do myself. We had to cut some vents right there in front of the hearth where it'll draw, and that'll draw it, takes it right out. But since we did that, if you'll notice, there's some vents right in front, and that thing, it draws so hard, there's no smoke bellows out at all. But yeah, it was funny. I thought I was a brick man and a chimney builder there for a little bit, but I said I better stick to petting dogs.
I think everybody kind of gets that wild hair, if you will. If you know, I'm a man's man. I can do that. I saw somebody do it on YouTube. I can do it.
Yeah.
If he can do it, I can do it. At least that's what you think. And my wife just sits up on the porch and just sits there and shakes her head most of the time. Just looks down off the second-story balcony at me, and I'm just down there praying something bad doesn't happen, you know. And I mean, when we built our house, we had a contractor hired, and we had a major malfunction, and come to find out, he couldn't read a tape measure, and I didn't know that I hired the only GC that can't read a tape measure, can't count. I mean, it's pretty simple. Right. I mean, if you're going to build a house, if you're going to build a house, you need to be pretty familiar with how to read a tape measure and be able to understand square, flush, and plumb. Right. I mean, if you can get those four things tackled, we can work with it. Well, he didn't have any of those. So anyway, I told Jennifer. She said, "What are we going to do now?" I said, "We're going to tear all this out." She's like, "Skylar, what do you know about building a house?" I said, "I know how to read a tape measure. Square, flush, plumb. Yeah, 3, 4, 5, baby." I mean, but anyway, I didn't think we'd ever get it built. And this trip here and the 2 hunting trips that we went on during the time we were living in our quote-unquote barn dominium, which, I was like, oh, we don't need to rent anywhere. Let's just stay at the hunting cabin. And my stepdad's got a farm, and it's got a hunting cabin, but it's like 300 square feet. So we put all of our personal belongings out in the shed, and we'd get dressed out in the elements every morning. Well, the heated part was like literally 300 square feet. So me and Jennifer are sleeping in the living room / kitchen / like common area. Yeah. Like we're laying down, our mattress was on the floor, our feet are on the couch, our hands on the kitchen cabinets, and if somebody walks in the front door, they're in your bedroom. Also in your bathroom. And I'm like, I don't know how much longer she can take this or whatever, but she looked forward to the hunting trip those 2 years, I think. But getting out of the hunting cabin. But I told her, I said, look, we're going to go to South Georgia to a hunting. She was like, well, I think this needs to be a guy trip. I said, trust me, you don't want to miss this one. So she started Googling and checking everything out on the internet, and she's like, I'm going. Yeah. I'm going. I'm good with this one. This one's okay. So when we pulled in and we pulled off the blacktop, and we got on the dirt road coming in, Swain calls me on the phone, and he said, am I on speaker? And I said, yeah. He said, Jennifer, you thinking Skylar lied to you yet? And she's like, I don't know, Swain, did he? And then it just opens up into all this, and it's just, the whole weekend has just been a once-in-a-lifetime experience. But you also have a place in Nebraska, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. So I told you how we got involved in the hunting down here was to help the customers with their dog. Well, there was some duck lodges that I was sending all my customers to, Louisiana, Arkansas, and one of the guides told me one day, he said, Brad, he said, I think this year about 50% of our business was Mossy Pond dog customers that you were sending out here. We appreciate your business. Thank you for always supporting us. Thank you for always pushing you guys our way. And I got to scratching my head, and I said, this don't make good sense, Bradley. I said, we love our buddies and we're going to help them out, but if you're pumping a lodge and they're telling you close to 50% occupancy out of Mossy Pond dog customer, we need to come up with a wild bird operation out, Midwest, whatever. So we started one in Bassett, Nebraska, And it's the beginning of the flyway coming out of Canada, and you getting all those juvenile birds that hadn't seen decoys and hadn't heard calling, and you know, it makes us look like rock stars, and it is absolutely full of birds. I mean, we have had a lot of success. The first year I went out there just scouting 3 years ago, I mean, we were back eating breakfast at 8 a.m. every morning, and I said, yeah, we can do it here. We went ahead and built the lodge. The big lodge in the back, the executive lodge, I built both of them at the same exact time. Bought 2 red iron kits, they're red iron buildings, and I built both of them at the same time, the one out there and the one here. But yeah, and that led into more stuff, just more stuff that our customers wanted to do. We're in the big game business out there. Rio and Merriam turkeys, we kill a lot of Merriam and Rios, and then whitetail and mule deer. So we've added those amenities here in the last year. And of course the waterfowl is just sick. And we do a lot of pheasant hunting too. You know, that for a lot of our Georgia guys and our southeast guys, eastern guys, they want to go on that traditional Nebraska, South Dakota, Kansas pheasant hunt, and it's the most beautiful landscape in the back, and just beautiful pheasant birds. We got prairie chicken out there and sharp-tail. It's target-rich environment for an outdoorsman out there. It's just full of game, and a lot of the game, the farmers, all they know out there is farming. You know, their lives and their wives and their family, that's all they know. So the game's really not pressured by locals. Yeah. So it's fun. I'm
thinking about starting a custodial / guide business. So if you need somebody to like clean the toilets, put sheets on the bed, and then, dress birds, me, Jack, and Swain, we have nothing to do from like December 17th to January the 6th.
Come on.
So,
I could clean the toilet mop before, I tell you that. My dad trained me that in the field house. I know I can do that.
Yeah, it's
put you to work.
And too, that Midwest flyway, is so heavily concentrated with a large number of America's and Canada's, duck population or waterfowl or game bird population, if you will. I mean, and it's just beautiful out there. And I tell everybody, until you get west of Dallas, Texas, or north of Tennessee, everything kind of looks the same. You can drive from Center Alabama to Dallas, Texas, and not really see a dime's bit of difference. It's a little more pine trees down here than there are at the house, but trees are trees. But out there, it's just rolling hills, and you can see forever. And it's just, it's just beautiful how every place is different, and
out there it's amazing. And I didn't say this earlier. I was just thinking about it, but that was a stair step to our training our customers on their dogs. The last 2 years we filled it up with dog customers and go out there and really truly get that group of pintails that won't finish, that you work for 15 minutes. With our birds down here in Georgia, our plantation mallards, it's hot and heavy, but out there to get that and to get old Blue, hey, stay in the ground force blind, stay concealed while we're working these birds until we can finish them. That's something that we couldn't replicate here, and we can definitely do it out there now. And all of these places that you go, you have a professional dog trainer that's sitting next to you. One of the 9 dog trainers are sitting next to you, or in the blind, or at least back at camp that y'all can discuss it when you get back there, right? So, it's that move out there. That was another heaven sent, God sent blessing for us, because that place there, there's no other word to describe it but magical. When they start pushing, you better cock your gun, because it's fun up there. It's nice.
Now, are y'all hunting dry fields or?
Primarily, we got 2 different rivers up there that don't freeze up, that we get to hunt, one north, one south. and we get to hit those late season when it gets cold. That's where the birds, they got to hit that water, so they're going to be there. But early season, we start on October 1st, right around the first week of October, and they're eating those dry fields up just like they're used to in Canada. And so when they're coming down, they're hitting that, and there's potholes, that we have, and we've got some flooded stuff out there, flooded cornfields and stuff that they'll hit. But mainly, I bet you we killed 80% of our birds in dry field. And some people like dry field, some people don't. But to me, that's my deal. I love it. Of course, everybody likes the green timber, standing timber, but those dry fields out there, when they do it, it's pretty special. I mean, 3 tiers of tornadoes trying to get in there. I mean, it's good.
I always tell everybody, Lonesome Dove's the most quotable movie ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, if my phone ever rings to, want me to go to Nebraska, I'm going to tell my wife the same way Gus told Lori, I'm bound for Ogallala. And just go ahead and just head west. But, it is spectacular, going out through the Midwest, and, everybody everywhere kind of does it a little different, and, we've got videos of us laying in coffin blinds in
Salt Lake, Utah,
in Utah and Salt Lake, and then you're talking about hunting out of layout blinds or pits and or hedgerows or panel blinds in Nebraska, and then you go to the Great Lakes or Gulf of Mexico or out in the ocean, hunting sea ducks or divers, and you use layout blinds, and every duck is different, and they live somewhere different, and you've got to be able to adapt. It's kind of like coaching football.
Right.
You got to put your work in. And
you might be a spread team. You might be
spread team, wing tee, and you're like, man, golly bum. What are we going to do? Like last night, we're sitting out here, and one of the managers here is a football coach, and we're sitting there, and I'm like, hey man, how would you block nose and 4 eyes? 3-backer box. He's like, I just run outside zone. I said, well, they do this. He said, no, hold on. Is the scenario going to change every time? Or are you going to have the ink pen last? And I said, well, look, I'm telling you, this old boy that coaches the 5 Red Devils down here in North Alabama, he always seems to have the pen last. He's got as many rings as Kay Jewelers does. And I'm like, yeah. But, it's just the similarities, I guess, between coaching ball and playing ball, and
I think that's why us three absolutely love it, and that's probably why Brad's successful when he coaches teams too. He has great youth baseball teams and stuff. He coaches them little ones up, and they do a great job. He helped with the middle school program; they've done a great job. So he's always been involved in that same perfection. Don't look at one part and say we're going to do real good at that. Do everything good,
right?
And so that he's always been good at that. But I know one thing he talked about right there in Nebraska, that backdrop. That backdrop out there is different.
It really is. And the first time I ever saw it was 2020, and we pull up to Ogallala and eat at Applebee's, and there's a little Bass Pro Shop, Cabela's there, and we get back on the interstate.
That's where I showed Jennifer a moose is in Cabela's. We went to Yellowstone. She didn't see a moose, so I went to Cabela's and showed her.
You go over those rolling hills, and as that sun setting out there, and it just turns everything orange and purple. It's unbelievable.
We send pictures back, when we're out there, and everybody says, is that real or is that fake? Is that a painting or something? Oh, it's real.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
And I know you said that lodge was a step up for y'all because they're wild birds and the view's beautiful, but I don't want this place to get, misunderstood. This place looks as, awesome with the land, the timber. There's no different than driving in Arkansas in the timber like we hunted today. And, duck hunters are all about wanting to kill wild birds, and this place might get a misunderstanding of farm-raised birds and all that. And we got done hunting today, and we looked at each other and said, those are just like shooting any duck. Like everybody thinks a farm-raised duck, we got them on a string, you just reel them in and shoot them. Like it was as far from that as.
Well, it's just like real birds. You could like you can tell these birds have just got off roost. Like they're not in a pen. They're in the woods.
Well, what we do, we try to, we don't put them out the day of, we raise them. So we hatch the birds here on property.
Oh, wow.
We start raising them in June, and they're raised all summer, all fall. And what we do, we just, in our big swamp, we just put feed out in different areas. So then when they see other ducks feeding, no different than a wild duck, when he sees another duck feeding or loafing, whatever he's doing, he's going to him, right? Mm-hmm. So we do the same exact thing with these birds, and we move the feed. So they have to look for it, so they decoy. That's the other thing. Everybody said, you're not going to get them to decoy, they're just going to bounce around. And I said, well, if you move the feed, you just got to think like an outdoorsman. Yeah. And if their feed's different, they move. When they run out of feed, what are they going to do? They're gone. Yeah. So I said, they're not going to go to that same spot if there's nothing there to eat. Mm-hmm. So we would move the feed on that 500-acre swamp. And as we would move it in the first years, now this was 12, 13, 14 years ago. But as we would move that feed, we could see that they would bounce and move, and they'd go looking for it. And that's why now, how y'all said, y'all saw ducks decoyed this morning. Well, when they see other ducks, which decoyed, and the spinners, and they hear the calls, well, that's where the feed is today. They bank and come in there. They're not going to give you four loops. Right. They're going to get the wind right and do it. But for the dogs and for them to decoy, and if we put the feed in the same spot every day, it wouldn't work like that. But no, you're exactly right. And our quail, y'all bragging on our quail flying. I mean, those birds. I mean, we can't get rid of these predators. So those birds are the same way. We do a mass release, and all through the year they're flying and running from predators, running from other hunters. So it really builds them up. I mean, I pride what we do on trying to make it well, that's how I build it, right? Yeah. I'm trying to replicate a wild bird hunt operation for my customer. So everything we do, down to how our birds fly, we're doing everything in our power to make him look exactly like a wild bird. Yeah,
because when they've, like you said, when you mass release and they've been here, by this point, that's a wild bird to me. I mean, they've gotten smart, and you said like a real ducks, and you said like real ducks. Today we experience, it's hard to compete with a live decoy. When that duck is landing there and they're making water move and they're swimming around, ducks are going to pile in on that. And we saw that today where they were going to other ducks, and they were
just like he's talking about training these dogs to have a certain standard. I guarantee you when those quail woke up this morning, they weren't having suicidal thoughts. So they start hearing that 12 gauge rack off, and they see a big fat guy with a green shirt on walking down through there in an orange hat. They're like, hey, that fat guy's back. and you start shooting, and they got yonder. I mean, they're gone.
Big covey
and we'd shot several coveys, and we're walking this, just walking with the dogs just spread out in a line, and I just, the dogs were, I don't know, 60 or 70 yards on the other side of me, which was, 10 or 15 yards on the other side of Jack. And we're spread out quite, probably 30 yards apart. And so Jack was about 60 yards away from me. And, again, the dogs were over there. Well, I'm walking down through there, really making sure I'm not fixing to step on a South Georgia rattlesnake. And the birds, that big covey kicked up, and they flew way away.
We didn't get a shot at it. The big covey.
No, it scared me to death.
And it looked like dove coming off of a millet field.
Yes,
I mean, it's so many birds.
It is awesome. We've kind of berated you with questions, I guess, and we've obviously, told you, all of the high praise and everybody that's listening, how awesome this place is. But I guess my next question is, when are you going to get down our way and come to TC Duck Club and shoot ducks with us?
I'd love to do it. If I can get away from football and this place, I'd love to get out there. I know I have to bring a couple of my boys with me.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Or I won't have a place to come back to.
Right.
Well, we'd love to have those guys or you guys, and we are obviously not on this level, and I didn't even know that this level existed. And I've hunted a bunch of places in a bunch of different states, but we're not on this level by any means. But I do have a really good group of guys that we hunt with, and it's ours, it's home, and my partner, if you will, is my best friend in high school, and really my best friend my whole life. We played Little League baseball together, and his mother and daddy kind of helped raise me because my dad had gotten diagnosed with liver cancer, and they were just like another family to me, and we grew up together, and we played sports all throughout school together. He was my left tackle, and I was a quarterback, and it's not that brotherly love. I mean, we punched each other in the nose enough to do both of us for a lifetime. I mean, he's way too big and strong now, and it takes a lot longer for me to get over being sore, so I try to make sure I'm trying to mind him, if you will, but it's just such a good group of guys. Swain is he's a high sodium person in a low sodium society, but and Jack's the same way, and all these guys, we would love to have you down and let these guys experience kind of what we do and where we go, and we also go and hunt those layout boats, and that's kind of what I'm addicted to.
I haven't done much of that. I'd love to see that.
And that is a trip. That is.
Are you able to carry a dog on that stuff?
Well, it's funny you ask. Another one of the guys that sits in on the podcast sometime, his name's Renzel Adams, and I absolutely despise the thought of ever owning any other kind of dog than a lab dog to hunt with. I don't understand why anybody would want anything besides a lab, because nobody goes to the Cadillac dealership and say, hey, will you give me that one with cloth seats in it? Yeah. You run a lab, it's the best one they got. So anyway, but he's got this little Boykin, and Boykin's name is Boone, and he's a little pocket rocket. The little Boykin ain't just tiny, and it looks like you can just pick him up and put him in your shirt pocket.
We're training a lot of Boykins.
And Renzel loves this dog, and that dog loves Renzel, and I've got to where I absolutely love that little Boykin.
Oh, yeah.
And
bad news.
Jack and Renzel and me and my son Ryan and another one of our buddies, Colin, have driven through Utah, Nebraska, Idaho. We're in Washington State, and we killed the last duck that we needed, which was Jack's Barris, and he just leans across Renzel, and shoots it like over the top of Renzel, and the dog, this little Boykin, is laying at their feet in that two-man layout boat, and he'll just say place, and he'll just go up there and get in his place. So every bird, is like a blind retrieve, but that layout boat's stable enough that you can kind of get up or whatever. Well, Boone is sitting in that layout boat, and he's again down there, and Jack throws over to kill that bird, and when he does, Boone just kind of and we can see the whole thing going, because like we're in the tender boat. Boone just kind of gets ready, like, all right, it's my turn, and he's just sitting there like this. Well, Jack and Renzel is laughing and high-fiving, and you can hear the whole conversation because it's echoing across the water. Well, they bump Boone, and he bumps the shotgun. And it falls out of the boat.
When he goes out. When the dog.
And then Boone goes out, and Renzel just looks over the side of the boat, and that brand new Brown and A5 Wicked Wing is 15 foot down. And, Seattle, West Coast, Puget Sound, that's where they filmed Free Willy. He's out there somewhere. Yeah. They freed Willie.
The killer whale.
Yeah, killer whale. Great white shark, all that.
That's what I was about to ask you, if you any threat on the white sharks for the dog there?
Well, the only time I've ever seen them, and there's obviously blood in the water, you're killing birds or whatever, but I kind of told you the story about us watching Jeff Coates on Drake's Migration Nation, and us learning how to long line decoys in the swimming pool with shower curtain clips.
Which don't work.
That doesn't work. But you can use crappie stringers and paracord it and get by.
Right.
Which also is not, I mean, you get by, it's just not what you're supposed to do. So anyway, our first sea duck adventure, if you will, we'd hunted the Gulf of Mexico, and we're in Maryland, and we put out 2 lines of decoys. And again, these are just mallard, wood duck, gabwall, whatever we got. We just spray painted them all black. Flat black, yellow beak. I mean, it didn't tape off the beak. We just hit them and go, hit them and go. I mean, how hard can it be?
Better milk jugs.
Yeah, just a big black milk jug is what they kind of look like. And anyway, we've got these decoys, and we shoot one right, just literally like 30 seconds after shooting time. And it's the only old squaw that we see all day. Boom, we shoot it. Pat, boom, send Pat out there to go get it, and she goes out there, and she comes back, and we pull her over into the boat. I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, that's awesome. We're like high-fiving, because first sea duck any of us has ever seen.
You accomplished
And it come right into those decoys that we had spray painted. I'm like, we did it. We were, awesome. We didn't get skunked, and we're sitting out there, and about literally 2 or 3 minutes after she had come back in between those 2 lines of decoys, and they're probably 10 yards apart, kind of like we always set them. I don't know what kind it was. I mean, tiger shark, white shark, I don't know, cartoon shark, I don't know.
One that bites.
It is a shark, I know that much.
Very large fish.
A very large fish. I feel quite certain could have ate the dog without even chewing it. Just take that lab dog like an aspirin, just swallow it. But anyway, it comes between us and the first line of decoys, which is closer than from here to that wall. And I'm like, nope. Come on, girl. I just clip her leash back on her, and I'm like, nope, we're not doing this anymore. And Ryan said, how are we going to get the ducks? I said, you can swim out there and get them. We'll drive that boat out there.
Take the boat.
So anyway, we pull the anchor up, and I would just sit back, in the driver's seat and bump it into gear and just nose it into the wind on one. And then when the wind was blowing so hard, you just bump it in gear, bump it out, bump it in gear, just enough to keep it nose into the wind. And we ended up killing our limit that morning, but that's the only time we've ever hunted like in the ocean, like out in front of the condos. And we're doing like bay inshore type deal, and now that we've gotten a little more familiar with the habitat and what duck we're actually looking for, a lot of it you're like pretty much you're within a cast and a half of the shoreline most of the time. So it's
out there in the open. I'll fight a grizzly bear with all the hunting we've done. I mean, hog hunting, big game hunting. I'll fight a grizzly bear with a switch. But them sharks, I guess it was fun. My grandmother thought the only program that was on during the summer was Shark Week. So that's all I watched. Them sharks spooked me.
Sharks and snakes and frogs. I don't like anything that doesn't have shoulders or thumbs. We ain't gonna have it. And I tell everybody, that shark, it'll get you out there in that ocean. You put that shark in the Walmart parking lot, I'll kick that shark's ribcage out. I'll walk his guts out in the Walmart parking lot. I'm not going on his turf. Let him come to the Walmart parking lot. If he wants to bite me, you do it at the Huddle House.
Like the old school high school fight right there.
You come over to my place.
I had a buddy that he invited me to go Mossy hunting right here on the coast. I said, sure, I'd love to go. Well, I mean, I didn't even ask any questions. I just showed up. Trigger, he jumped out. At the time, that was a bow. But he jumped out and went over there, and he said, ooh, Brad. He said, I don't know that I'd do that. And I said, what you mean? He said, we're going to take your dog. I said, if I'm wing shooting, there's going to be a dog somewhere. He said, them white sharks, they can be bad. I said, well, I ain't worried about the dog now. I'm worried about Brad. And I said, what boat are we taking? Which one out there? And he said, it was a big flat bottom boat that he just let it drift across that stuff. And we had a heck of a time. But he said, I said, he's steady. I mean, he's only going to go on the birds that we want. And he said, well, if it's shallow, we'll shoot him. But what you do, you'd have to cross some deeper canals out there. We were right there on the edge. And the sound. But
What kind of birds were you hunting?
marsh hens.
Marsh hens, okay.
Yeah. You kill 15 right here in Georgia, marsh hens, and but it's fun.
Yeah.
Fun. Of course, the boat can't be moving, but when the moon's right, the tide gets way up, they really don't have anywhere to go because they live in the marsh. And when you hit it right and that tide's high, they don't have anywhere to go, so they're just sitting on them little clumps out there that are so high. And when that boat slides across that grass, they hear it get up.
Well, whether it's kelp or mussels or, whatever, they're some type of vegetation, ducks in the ocean are just like ducks around here. You find the food, you find the ducks.
That's right.
And, what we've learned is you'll have tide going one way, wind going another way, and current going another way. So it's just a big washing machine, wash tub, if you will. And you've got long line decoys, meaning you've got rope or cord or whatever that you've got these ducks tied to. And if you get that tangled up,
Big bird's nest.
well, if you get it tangled up around the prop, that's dangerous. And the only way you and your buddies have home is that vessel that you're in. So you try to make sure that you don't get anything tangled, and that's why we like to make sure bird are belly up, done, and then we just get close and kind of get whichever way the bird's drifting, we try to get downwind or down current from it and send the dog and let the dog because the dog's not going to get tangled in any decoys and stuff. So a dog is I'd just soon go without a shotgun as I had to go without my dog. But I don't think I have to tell you the value of a retriever. Obviously you've got that game kind of figured out. Guys, I really appreciate you introducing us to Mr. Arrington, and I really appreciate you having us down.
This has been a great opportunity.
This has been one of the lifelong dreams for us, and I think, Jack, I had to twist his leg to get him to get the truck. But, again, it was just, it was an unbelievable experience, and we really appreciate it. We'd love to have you.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm all about relationships. I'm sure from hearing y'all talk and meeting you guys that we'll a lot more good times ahead of us. So I thank you for the opportunity. Anything that we can do for y'all here, me and the staff will make sure that we do it for you.
Well, you've done more than we could ever ask for, and we sure do appreciate it. But thank you so much, from my whole family and everybody at TC Duck Club. We really appreciate it. And
Sounds good.
you got anything else?
First of all, I call Brad a friend. He's a great man. Just great guy to be around, great guy to meet. And, even though I'm not going to be around him as close as much anymore, but
we're still friends.
We're still going to see each other a lot. And I appreciate him doing this.
Well, all it done is you just, moved his East Alabama, West Georgia lodge closer to the duck.
Very good.
So, please don't be a stranger. Like I said, I'm a pretty straight shooter, and I can't tell you anybody else on the planet that's going to tell you more plain than Ryan Law will, which is my partner in this deal. And, if Ryan Law tells you something, you can take it to the bank. And sometimes, he'll tell you plain enough that there's no way you can't understand it. And Ryan told me yesterday, he said, look, you let them know they're welcome anytime. And
Thank you both.
He had a wedding anniversary, and him and his boss lady have a young son, and they were able to get a weekend off, and this weekend just didn't work out for them. And I think both of them now, Ryan was really tore up, but I think both of them are tore up now that they've seen some pictures and heard some stories. But again, I hope this is not the last time we cross paths. And
oh no, y'all are welcome back here as well. We'd love to have you. Show you the different stuff that we have. Got to get you out here to Nebraska as well.
Yeah, that will. You talked about that before, and we're definitely going to do that.
That's right. We'd love to have
it'd
you.
be a lot of fun. And like I said, we go all over the country, and Nebraska is just, it's one of those things that everybody needs to see. So if you hadn't ever seen Nebraska, if you want a top-notch experience, if you want first-class service, if you want to really just be wowed the whole time you're there and treated like royalty and treated really like family, you need to look up Mossy Pond Outfitters and Mossy Pond Kennels. These guys will more than do their fair share or do their part to see that you're taken good care of. And, it's a first-class operation from the owner to the staff to everybody that we've met. Even the guests here have been incredible, and it's hard to be in a bad mood in a place like this. But make sure you check out Mossy Pond if you're ever interested in seeing that Midwest Flyway or going out and just experiencing what they do out there. And I can't say enough of this place in Southwest Georgia, but it's a good place.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good place. But that'll just about do it for another episode of Talking Quack and Smack with TC Duck Club. Y'all stay with us. We'll keep killing them.